Oh, welcome back to Kill a Bit of Time, episode 10. I said I was going to stop counting, but it's episode 10. How can you fucking know? Today we're going to be talking about the origins of Ballface. Who the fuck is Ballface? We're going to be talking about fountains, fish and chip shops, vinyl, fireworks, fudge, all that and more on today's episode. So sit back, relax and enjoy my ramblings on episode 10. Well, here we are, episode 10. It's quite a significant little episode really, isn't it, episode 10? That's 10 hours nearly, of planned out podcasts that I've sort of structured my life around. It's sort of like worked its way into my weekly ritual and I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. It's good for me. It's a way that I can communicate with some people. You don't always get time, do you, to chat to your mates and talk about how you're doing. So it's sort of like I'm just laying down how I'm doing in these podcasts. And if anyone wants to know, they can just listen to one and they're sort of up to date with my life. And it's good for me personally because like I've said before, it's a way that I can access the flow state. People do it in many different ways: gardening, music, writing, walking, meditation. For me, it's at the moment, it's this. I also find it in doing things like playing and writing music. And so it's good for me. It's like a healing sort of practice for me to do this. Every now and then you get a niggly little doubty voice in your head going, yeah, why are you doing it? What are you doing that for? Pointless, innit? And it's when you get those voices trying to discourage you from doing something creative, you sort of just got to step back and realise that's not you saying that. That's a part of your psyche, but it's not you. So you've got to sort of like let that little neg gremlin have his say, pat him on the head and go, there, back in your box, mate. Go on, off you go. And off he goes. And then you just got to allow the positive thoughts to flow. And he will pop his head up from time to time. You've got to treat it like an annoying pet, your neg gremlin. You know what I mean? It's a little bit like my cat, which I'll get onto in a minute, actually. It links quite nicely. My neg gremlin is a lot like my cat. You've got one. You can't get rid of it. It's cruel. But you got it. And every now and then it's going to pop its little head up and annoy you. So my cat annoyed me this morning. And and look, I love my little cat. We've got it. I've had her for about 5 or so years now. No, I reckon knocking about 5 years. But in the last year or so, and I'll tell you what, ever since we had our daughter, the cat has started pissing in the fucking house. And we've got laminate floorboards. And if you don't deal with piss and it soaks into the floorboards, it's made of MDF and it knackers them. They like swell up and you've got to replace them. So you've got a limited amount of time to spot it and clear it up. Anyway, cat piss is a particularly fucking irritating problem because once they've pissed on laminate flooring, for whatever angry little reason they've got, they'll do it again because the smell's then in the fucking MDF. And they'll think, oh, this is my toilet now. I'll do it here. No. We had to replace a whole section of our floor. And now that didn't work. I've had to, we've started barricading parts of the floor. So we replaced a load of the floor. And then about a few weeks later, she pissed there again. So we've now just covered the floor in crap to keep the cat off it. And it's like there's 3 spots in the house now that have been covered up. A fresh one this morning. I was going all around this morning, trod in something, wet. I was like, oh, no way. And the first few times that this happened, it used to really trigger me. I'd get super angry, like really angry. And I'd instantly start chasing the cat around the house. And then my partner said, why are you getting angry? It's not getting you anywhere. It's not accomplishing anything. And I was like, I know she's right. Losing my fucking temper right now isn't going to help. But the problem is, it's like a reflex, isn't it? But anyway, I've been getting better. It's like the cat's teaching me to control my anger in a way by pissing on the floor. Every time I encounter cat piss now, I try not to get angry. And this morning, I stepped in cat piss. Not only was there cat piss on the floor, which is usually enough to tip me over the edge, but I got cat piss on my foot as well. So I had to be working 15 minutes. And I was washing my foot under the sink. So all the ingredients were there for me to lose my temper. I had groggy morning, cloudy little brain fog. I was hungry. I hadn't had a coffee, and I'd just stepped in fresh cat piss. All the ingredients were there for me to lose my shit. And I was quite proud that I didn't. I had to take a deep breath. And then I was like, right, I was ready to flip out. And then I just thought, what's the point? What is the actual point? So I succeeded in that moment. So I was quite pleased with myself. I mean, I went to work later on that morning. I lost my temper about 6 times during breakfast service because it was quite an irritating little breakfast service. Breakfast is the most irritating of services you can have because for some reason, people think they can mess with their meals. Oh, should we go for breakfast? Yeah. Oh, let's go for breakfast. Yeah. We can change it all. Oh, can I have my eggs, but I'm going to have one of them flipped and one of them hard? Can I have my bacon extra crispy? Or can I have one piece of white bread and one brown bread? And it's like, fucking hell. Once you get all the messages come through on the ticket, you've got about 3 meals on there. The ticket is about a metre long with all these changes. It doesn't happen with lunch. It doesn't happen with dinner. So if you're one of these people out there who think it's acceptable to go changing all your breakfast stuff, it isn't. Why do you feel the need to do that at breakfast but not at lunch and dinner? If you go out and get a steak and ale pie, you don't say, oh, can I have my vegetables slightly more tender than usual? I've got bad teeth. I've only got a few teeth left. I want them extra soft. And can you make my mashed potatoes 79 degrees, please? I like it that sort of temperature. And can you make sure my pie is nice and crispy around the edges? You don't, do you? You order a pie, you get a pie. You get what you fucking order. So why is it at breakfast you feel the need or you feel like it's acceptable to go and change everything? Let me tell you, if you're one of those people who go out there and get your breakfast changed, yeah, if there's a bit of bacon falling on the floor, you're damn right it's going back on your fucking plate. All right? You're damn right. And it's what you deserve. Anyway, moving swiftly on. The cat piss sort of taught me to control my anger in the morning. I just needed to reapply that same level of self-control when I was getting irritating customers ordering breakfast, which I couldn't do. You know, you win some and you lose some. But anyway, that was the start of my day. I'm back now. I'm on a split shift. I'm recording a podcast. And I want to start by telling you about my week. So one of the best parts of my week was an unexpected moment of flow. And me and my partner went to Wagamama's. Bloody love a bit of Waggers. I usually go for a yakisoba or a ramen. This occasion I went for a ramen. Went for the hot honey chicken. Absolutely insane. Some people say Wagamama's is overpriced. And maybe it is a little bit. But it's nice, isn't it? You know what I mean? Anyway, left Wagamama's. Quite happy. Little girl's about 16, 17 months now. She's toddling around. She's a toddler. She's officially toddling. And anyway, in the square, they had these fountains. You know when you see the fountains in the square, dipping in, dipping out. And there's loads of kids playing in the fountains. And little girl showed an interest. And Mrs. was a little bit reluctant because she didn't want us to be piss wet through. But she looked so intrigued with it. You couldn't stop her. You know what I mean? You can't stop your child from going investigating a lovely, colourful little fountain at the age of 16 months. You got to let them do it, yeah. Anyway, she started by just putting her hands in it, and within about 5 minutes, she was piss wet through running around in the fountains. And me and my partner was just watching her, and it was the nicest moment of my week. It was lovely, just watching her. She was amazed with it. She was like, it's the first time. Imagine having the first time. You don't know much about the world. You've only been on the planet for 16 months. All you know is these fountains are fucking brilliant. And you're just running around in awe of this experience that's happening around you. This weird substance shooting out the floor. It's all wet and it's nice because it's a hot day and there's loads of other sort of like-minded mental cases running around you as well. And it was just lovely. Watching her be in the moment. Watching her being in the moment put me in the moment. And we were all just in the moment together. And when we came out of it, it's all good things coming to an end. We're like, right, it's had enough now. After about nearly half an hour, to be fair. And I felt like the same feeling that I get after I record a podcast or I write a piece of music. I was like, oh shit, I was in a flow state then whilst I was watching that happen. And that was awesome. It was awesome. So sometimes these little flow states can come and surprise you. You don't always have to plan your being in a flow state. Sometimes you just got to be open-minded and willing just to go out and sort of like look around, investigate. never know what's going to pop up and surprise you. I've got a mate who was talking about wanting to. It's the same mate who who's trying to stay on the straight and narrow and abstain from alcohol and drug use. He's trying to find out how he can get into the flow state, and he knows that he's been in it before. He recognises it when people talk about it. He's just trying to find his thing, and so it's quite an interesting exploration. We found it's a common topic that we discuss. He's recently got a little puppy. Playing with a little puppy can probably get you in that state as well. So it's interesting. I love talking about it. I love hearing about how other people get into it. I love discovering new ways that I can get into it. But if you can get into the flow state, it's an incredibly healing and meaningful place to be. So what else did I get up to? Oh yeah. So at work, I had a bit of a slip. In terms of the old alcohol abstaining, which I'm still continuing to do. And basically what happened is, right, my hand went into a fryer up to the knuckles on your back of your palm. So all the fingers on my left hand were in the fryer. And basically this new KP lad, right, called Little Ollie, call him Little Ollie, and he's new, and he's not the brightest of chaps, but he's got a great work ethic, and he'll do anything you ask, and he's always working hard. Good lad. We call him Little Ollie. We've got a bit of an experiment going actually, because when you're busy, Little Ollie's a bit of a tongue twister. So you end up it turns it into Little Ollie. You go Little Ollie, and eventually it's just Little Ollie. So I've given up now. I just go, and then he goes, yeah. He pops his head round. I was like, interesting. I thought, I wonder if I can gradually up the pitch of that noise. So it starts off as, and then eventually I can just go, and then he just pops his head out and goes, yeah. And I'm nearly there, to be fair. But anyway, this lad, he's not all there. And he put way too many chips in the basket. And I said, that's too many, mate. And I went to grab some out of the basket. And as I did that, he dropped the basket into the fryer. Therefore, my fingers went into the 180 degree hot oil. Not the most pleasant experience. I knew what to do. I wiped the oil off on my apron immediately because it stays on you. It stays hot on you. And then wiped it off quick. And I went and ran it under the cold water for about 20 minutes. Popped over to A&E for them to check it over. All good, few blisters, nothing too major. But it's important, if you ever get burnt, it's really important to get it under cold water as soon as possible. The difference is massive. If I didn't put it under cold water straight away for 20 minutes, my hands would have been all totally blistered up and gnarly. I've seen it before. You got to get it under cold water ASAP, run it under there for as long as possible, and you should be all right. But it's the superficial burns which are the most painful, because that's where all your nerve endings are. So I was in a lot of pain, and funnily enough, like the 3rd degree burns are the ones that don't hurt as much because you've burnt all your nerves away. It's down to the fucking muscle. But anyway, I was in a good amount of pain towards the end of the shift, and I was like, I need painkillers. I popped 3 of the 500 milligram paracetamols. Don't do that, you should only have 2. But I was in excessive pain, and I was really throbbing, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to have a pint. I ended up having 2 pints of cider and took the edge off. Sort of been medicinal. But I was a little bit disappointed in myself because I was like, I let myself slip then. And I was thinking, would I have let myself slip if I hadn't have slipped before when my sister came down? I thought, I don't know the answer to that question. But I don't want to beat myself up too much about it. I could still try and abstain now. It doesn't mean everything's ruined. It's a little bit like, there's a good metaphor for it. It's a little bit like when you're learning to swim. Every now and then, when you first start, you have to hold the side again to steady yourself, make sure you don't fucking drown. And that's what it's a little bit like, sort of getting on that road to 100% abstaining. It's not going to happen overnight, I found. It's a gradual process. I'm learning to swim. Every now and then, I've had to put my hand on the side. But eventually, I'll be doing lengths up and down. I won't be putting the hand on the side at all. And so that happened. And then the same day, funnily enough, or the day after, my mate sent me a little chip through the post. And because he gets chips every time he does this, I think it's Alcohol Anonymous or something like that, where you get chips after 30 days, 2 months, 6 months, whatever it is like that. Obviously, I'm not doing any of those programs. I'm just experimenting to see if I can abstain from alcohol because it's better for my life. And he said, I'll send you one, saying once in 60 days as a joke. And I was like, oh yeah. And anyway, he did it. I got this little chip come through the door saying, Kia's once in 60 days chip. And it was nice because it was just a little reminder of that. Because after I had those 2 pints, I was like, oh, maybe I've ruined it now. And the little chip that came through the door was just like a little reminder to go, keep it up, mate. You know what I mean? Keep it up. And I was like, that's exactly what I needed at that time. So it was quite nice. So cheers, mate, if you're listening. Something else I've been doing this week is hunting for vinyl. I feel like vinyl is going to make a big comeback soon. I don't know why. I've just got a feeling. So I've started collecting vinyl again in all the charity shops. And it's always the same shit in the charity shops. It's either orchestral type stuff. I did pick up Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, because you can't not if you see that. And there's also an incredible amount of vinyl from someone called James Last. Never heard of this James Last fella, but nobody wants his vinyl because it's in every single charity shop there is. So yeah, I just need to get my hands on a record player now. So I'm keeping my eyes out on Facebook Marketplace for one of them bad boys. I went to watch the fireworks on Monday with my little girl. She loves looking at the fireworks. And then we in the daytime, during that day, we went out for some fish and chips in Weymouth Harbour. And you always get the same thing at fish and chips these days. People fucking moaning. £3.50 for a jumbo sausage? I ain't paying that. Well, why are you moaning for? That's not that bad if you look at it. Like, minimum wage has gone up to nearly £12 an hour. Pre-lockdown, it was like £7 or £8. So your pay's nearly doubled. So's the price of a jumbo sausage in a chippy. It's called inflation. Don't you fucking idiots understand that? You think the jumbo sausage is going to stay the same price, and your pay is just going to go up and up and up exponentially as the years go on, but you're still going to pay 99p for a jumbo sausage? You know what I mean? It's just not. It's just dumb, isn't it? Some people are just dumb, and I'm trying, not to get irritated by dumb people, but they're the imbeciles. Sort of intrigue me as well. I'm sort of sometimes amazed at how stupid people can be. I can't help it. Every bone in my body knows. Is just ignore them. Just ignore the stupid people. But there's a bit of me that's intrigued and amazed by the level of stupidity and the stuff that comes out of people's mouths. I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. I didn't know people could be so fucking stupid. That's really amazing. They should make a documentary on stupid people. Well, actually, come to think of it, they've already done that, haven't they? Love Island, Big Brother. That's a documentary of stupid people, isn't it? But the difference is that's for stupid people to watch as well. That's for stupid people watching stupid people. They should make a documentary for, neurotypical people observing stupid people in a sort of research kind of way. But anyway, so we did that. And, looked at the people moaning, sort of shook my head at them. And then I had another crack at the old fudge. And this time, I am close to making good fudge. I'm not quite there. Usually my fudge is a little bit hard and grainy, but this time it was too soft. I switched to using icing sugar. And I used that. And my fudge came out real soft. It was real nice, but it was just a bit too soft. So, I'm going to carry on. I'm going to persist with it. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to apply the same level of determination and zeal towards everything I do. And that's this podcast, that's raising my daughter, that is fudge. Because the way you approach things, it's the same in everything you do. If I give up making fudge, if I give up with this podcast, I may as well give up everything else. You know what I mean? You need to. That's my New Year's resolution. I don't have to have it on New Year's Day. I can have it now. I can have it last week. But my resolution is to not give up with things. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to pick up that banjo. I'm going to learn that song. I'm going to make some fudge. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up the first introduction of self-improvement. So now we're going to move swiftly on, and we're going to gallop on over to, I haven't got a name for this feature actually yet. So we're going to call it Ode to the Odd People, or just Ode to the People. Ode to the Odd People. There, wherefore art thou, Ballface? This week's odd person, his name is Ballface.
Ode to the strange people.
Strange.
Ode to the strange people.
So strange.
Ode to Ballface. Ballface.
So here we go, the feature of Ode to the Strange People. And my first strange person of this feature is a bloke named Ballface. So who is this guy? And where did he get that name? Well, it's a fella that I went to uni with, whose real name I won't disclose. His alias is Ballface. And the reason he got this name is because he had this sort of this ball right in between his eyes, on top of his nose. And how can I describe it? If you've seen a swan, and they've got that sort of big lump at the top of their beak, it was a bit like that. But obviously not black. It was a bit like a bubo. You know, when you learn about the bubonic plague, and they come up with these things called buboes all over their body. There's like these abscesses, and apparently the advice back in the medieval times was to rub garlic butter over them. It softened the skin, and then you could slice the buboes open with a knife easier because it softened the skin up. That's what I imagine these buboes to look like. What was on his head? This ball. It was like a cyst, but with a pulse. It was like that. It was kind of this pulsating sort of bubo type cyst, and it was sort of like it sort of took over in a way, and it's what he was known for. And so, what was he like as a person? I think he wouldn't have been who he was without the ball. He's quite shy. He's an outsider. He's sort of like he lived on the fringes of society almost. He had that vibe about him. He was an interesting fella, and it must be quite difficult it must have been difficult for him to sort of form an identity behind the ball, because if you look at him, you just see the ball. You think, there's that bloke with a ball, but there's a man behind the ball, and that man behind the ball has tried to sort of have a life, have an identity, sort of get an education, form relationships, all in the shadow of this ball that's in front of him, and it sort of had an effect on his mental state, I think, because he was quite shy. I think he gave up a few times. There were several times through uni where he would just sort of skulk about in his room, like with the lights off, and you'd see like the curtains twitching, and you go, Ballface is in there. And I thought, I need to befriend this fella. I felt like it was my duty. It turned out he was on the same course as me at uni, music production. And I was like, the stars have aligned. I need to bring this guy out. I need to get to know him. I need to know the man behind the ball. And I can sort of like try to give him a bit of confidence and things like that. I need to get him out of that fucking room. Because he's just sitting there smoking weed, you know, thinking about how to, you know, defeat the ball, I guess. I don't know what he thought. But anyway, he's quite a shy fella. And what was he like? It was at uni. It was like he was a person who'd just been introduced to modern day society, because it wasn't just the ball that was weird. It was him that was kind of strange as well, and it was because of the ball. But as a result, because he failed to sort of like subscribe to mainstream society at all, it was like if you got a tribe member out from the Amazon rainforest and they'd never seen Western society at all. And you just take them out of the tribe and you just drop them in Piccadilly Circus. That's how Ballface would behave. Just sort of looking around in a sort of anxious kind of way. Like, what the fuck is going on around me? It's a bit like that. It's a bit like if you sort of defrosted a caveman from the Neolithic period and then just stuck him in a subway. I think that you'd be like that. It was like that. What didn't help is that he has this sort of speech impediment where he can't say ing, he can't say ing, he says in, no, n for everything. He can't say ing. Thinking, he'll say thinking, and I know a lot of people do that, but it wasn't he couldn't say ing. A lot of people say thinking as a quicker way to speak, or as that might be their sort of dialect of the region of the country they're in. Thinking, you do say thinking, but he genuinely. I don't know, like the word thing. You would say, oh, look at that strange thing over there. He would say, look at that strange thin. And I don't know whether he learned that as a way to speak, or he genuinely is physically unable to say the sound ing. But anyway, the ball coupled with the peculiar personality and the speech impediment all combined, It's sort of like more like a creature rather than a person, especially towards the end of like these intoxicative sessions we used to have. We used to have, you know what it's like when you're 18, 19, 20, you're experimenting with a few things. You're on a couple of 2-day benders. Anyway, we got this bald-faced fella along. And towards the end of these sessions, where we were sort of getting a bit cooked out, seeing things in strange ways, and then you had Baldface in the corner, who was sort of looked. It was like a creature. It was like Gollum on acid. It was just the most peculiar. And what would often happen, it was like that we'd all just end up just sitting there, just looking at him. And it'd give you this really, and we'd have like weird sort of like a dubstep-y type music playing in the background. And we'd be listening to dubstep, just looking at Baldface, going, that is weird. And it was sort of an experience. He gave us an incredible experience just being able to sort of like observe him in that way. But anyway, a few of these sessions tucked under our belt, we got him out and about, and it only felt right to give him an alias rather than the traditional sort of first and last name that people are given in this country. Because he was different. So we gave him an alias, and that alias was Baldface. Obviously, we didn't call him Baldface to his face because we didn't want to hurt his little feelings there. And he had enough on his plate. He knew he looked weird. He didn't need us calling him Baldface to his face into the mix as well. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we'd go to raves. I used to go to these raves called free parties where you just call up a line and you go over and you get off your tits and you dance around to hard trance. Anyway, we used to go to these raves, and some people used to think he was wearing a costume. Honestly, he was that strange. People thought he was sort of dressed up in some sort of strange costume. I was like, no, that's what he looks like. That's him. That's a real person. And so it was quite interesting watching him interact with people out in the world as well. Sometimes he'd get, I used to walk to uni with him every day. We lived in 2 shared houses together over the years. And walking to uni, he would attract stares from strangers. But the way, and he knew this as well. He knew he wasn't a conventional looking fella. And what his response to it was just to sort of go with it and make himself look even stranger. So what he did was he wore a shirt and tie, but he wore it backwards. So he put the shirt on backwards and somehow get the tie on backwards as well. And he'd walk around like that. I don't know whether it was to take attention away from the ball or what, or whether he was just going with the strange look. So because he thought, I look strange, I'll just go with it. But as well as the tie and the shirt backwards, one time he grew half a moustache on one side and then half a goatee on the other side. And then he was rocking this look, and he had like long sort of weird hair as well. Anyway, he was rocking this look, and we're walking to uni. And then at one day, this guy actually physically stopped him. He stopped him in the street, and he wasn't being horrible. He just went, bro, that's not cool. Like he showed like a little bit of genuine concern. Like it was so out there that this stranger felt the need to actually stop him and go, no, don't do that. I mean, if that doesn't tell you how extreme the look was, I don't know what does. Maybe nowadays it'd be different. I am talking it like 15 years ago. But yeah, the fact like getting weird looks in the street is one thing, but actually getting stopped by members of the public showing genuine concern for the way you look, I mean, that tells you something, doesn't it? But it was an interesting fella to be around for that reason. For a start, we go out for a few beers. It's fun to have a few beers, but just as a little bonus, you get to see Baldface interact with the society. It was like an ongoing social experiment. It was like he was grown in a lab in the early 90s or something, or it was like the result of a clone gone wrong. That is a good one. Have you ever seen Alien? I think it's Alien 2, when they try and clone that person, and there's a load of dodgy clones that went wrong, and they're all chucked in a room. He sort of looks like one of them. He looks like a failed clone, but he was unique. He was totally unique. It's sort of tempting to think that he's like a different species, but you couldn't be, because he was so unique. Like there couldn't be more than one of him. So for another species to exist, you need to have like multiple of that species, don't you? but they couldn't be more than him because he's so unique. You couldn't build another one. Even if you had all the ingredients, you couldn't make another one like that. So how can I explain it? One other time, right, he knocked at my door at uni and I wasn't there. And this other fella seen him knocking at my door. And anyway, when I got back from uni or whatever, or got back from whatever I was doing that day, my other mate who lived across the hall from me said, "Oh, this bloke came and knocked at your door?" I was like, "Oh yeah." He went, "Yeah, leather jacket," and then sort of pointed to his face and went, he was looking to me for an explanation. And that's weird, isn't it? Usually you just go, "Oh, someone was looking for you earlier." That's it. Case closed. This fella, he told me, "Someone came looking for you earlier, and I need to know more information about this guy." I mean, that was the strangeness of the situation. So I was just like, yeah, I was just putting him into a position. I was like, yeah, he's my mate. Like, I made friends with him at uni, and it wasn't enough. He was like, he wanted more. He was like, first of all, why? Second of all, who is he? Third of all, does he go to this uni? Like, because of the way he looked, people were demanding more information out of me because I was, because I was kind of knocking about with him. But sometimes, like, knocking about with him could be dangerous as well. So let me expand on that point. We were walking to university one day, and I used to walk with him to uni sometimes. And we used to go through this place called the Eastern District of Northampton. It was a bit dodgy, It was just a bit one of those dodgy areas that you have to go through to get to where you're going. And there's you could tell there's a lot of crime around. Anyway, I was rolling along with Ballface, and these two girls seen us from across the street, and they must have been, I don't know, 15, 16 maybe, and they took one look at Ballface, and they started shouting and screaming. They're going, I don't know, they were just shouting, screaming, swearing, and stuff like that. And they're like, "Oh, we're going to get our brothers to fucking beat you up." And I was like, we did literally nothing. We were just walking to uni. And I was like, fucking hell. It's quite dodgy knocking about with him because sometimes people just want to start aggro with him. And anyway, I was like, shit, we're in a bit of trouble here. If these girls go back and say God knows what to their brothers, they could say anything. Their brothers come out and kick our fucking heads in. That's not going to be a pleasurable experience, is it? So I was like, right, mate, we're going to have to leg it, even though that's going to look, if you leg it, you look guilty though, don't you? But I was just thinking that's got to be the better option because these girls are just going to go back and just get their brothers to kick our heads in. So I think we just got to leg it. Anyway, we were discussing the best course of action. And luckily, out the fucking blue, one of these girls from the other side of the road just collapsed. She went down like a sack of shit, like a fallen tree, and smacked her head on the curb and unconscious. Honestly, one of them stood there, the other one, slap, down onto the floor. And I was like, well, isn't that a stroke of luck? And at that point, we just sort of like, we walked off with it, but a fast walk, where we weren't running away. Because if we ran away then, that would have looked mega guilty, wouldn't it? Unconscious fucking person on the floor and two people running away. So we decided to go for the fast walk. But it's just a lucky turn of events. But yeah, it can be dangerous knocking around with this fella as well because of the sort of attention that you draw. Another thing that happened was we were at one of these little like uni parties and that, and he decided to take 10 drops of LSD. And I wouldn't do that. I've experimented with psychedelics in the past, and I would never take 10 drops of LSD, not in any situation. But anyway, he did it, and he sort of like during his trip, he thought it would be a good idea to do 50 press ups, shave his head, and then go for a run. So he was, displaying some pretty mental behaviour. And then he had a shaved head with the ball. It was like accentuated the ball. The ball was on full view, full visibility, shining there, glistening in the fucking moonlight. So it sort of made it worse. But anyway, after a certain amount of time, we both finished uni. I went and did my thing. He went and did his. And during the time that we didn't hang about anymore, he removed the ball. He got his ball surgically removed, which I was extremely intrigued about because I was just thought, what's going to remain of the person? Because the ball, it was like it was his creator almost. He wouldn't be who he was without the ball. But is it going to make him better? Is he going to be different? I've heard from a few people that it didn't change him at all. He still had the same characteristics, but just without the ball. So then I was thinking, did he miss the ball? Did he regret it? Because the problem with as well, it was a strange fella. He was a strange looking fella anyway. But with the ball, at least he could blame it on the ball. He could blame the strangeness on the ball. He can go, oh, that fella looks strange. Oh yeah, it's the ball. But now he got rid of the ball. He still looks strange and he's got nothing to blame it on. So it makes it worse in a way. You go, oh, that bloke looks fucking weird. Why? And then people start really studying him, going, why is that bloke strange? He should have kept it, in my opinion, because he could have just blamed it all on the ball. But anyway, we drifted apart after uni. I didn't hear much. I went travelling. And I came back. And when I came back from travelling, I heard that he was in prison. And my first thoughts were, he ain't going to last too well in prison because he's quite a timid guy, really, most of the time. My second thoughts were, what's he done? And I won't go into too much detail because at the end of the day, you can get convicted for something, but you still might be innocent. You know what I mean? There's always two sides of the story, okay? But let me just say this. There was a broken bottle and some female genitalia. And the result was Ballface was in prison. Okay, so that was the result of that particular situation. He was in prison for about a year or so, I think, maybe less. But anyway, after that, he got out, started living on a boat, a little canal boat. But then he came back one day and someone had sank it. Because the problem is, when you've been in the papers for that sort of crime, it follows you around for a bit, I assume. So you can try and sort of get off the grid. You can try and just like keep your circles small. But as soon as one person finds out that you've done something that's not commonly accepted in most circles, then they're going to sink your boat, aren't they? So somebody sank his boat. So now I think he just keeps himself to himself in a caravan somewhere. I've seen a video recently of him and he's sort of like roaming around Northampton juggling. He's got this thing called Flow Tech where he just goes around juggling. And he's got about 60 juggling balls in his little caravan. Anyway, that's what he's doing these days. And, I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not saying he's a good guy. I'm saying we've had some great times. He's an interesting fella. He's noteworthy. He's someone that I'm never going to forget. And he's someone that I deem songworthy. There's only a few people in life that I deem songworthy, where I would spend time sort of writing a song about them. And he's one of those blokes. And the song I wrote about him was a bit of a saga, really, because it's had several verses. I've sort of been following his life. And then every time I get some more news pop up, I had another verse to the song. I think I've got 4 verses so far. And I'll play it at the end of this podcast. So for my next feature, I'm going to do an experimental feature here. It's a new one because I've got some other topics I want to talk about, but I haven't got loads of time left. So I'm going to do something new. And usually with my podcast topics, I plan it out throughout the week and I've got a little like bullet points to jot my memory as I go through. But because I've got a limited amount of time, I'm going to just do like a free flow. I'm going to do free flow. So, it's just going to be this topic. This next feature is going to be called Free Flow. And the jingle goes a little something like this. Free flow, free motherfucker. So there we go, free flow. I've got nothing to back me up. I'm just out there. You know what I mean? So the first thing that springs to mind is usually what's in your vision, isn't it? If you try to just come out and say something, it's going to usually be based off of something that's to do with your senses. It's your sensory input, to do with what you can see, smell, touch, anything like that. Maybe that's what happens when you're sort of bored at a pub and you're sitting on a bench talking to someone. You talk about what you can see, don't you? You go, look at that bloke over there. He looks a bit weird, doesn't he? Or you can go, can you smell that? Fucking stinks. You go, you farted? And you go, no. And then you go, yeah, you fucking have. And then it's all based off of that, isn't it? It all starts on something that's sensory, and then it leads to something deeper. And then you start making comparisons about things that you might relate to and other people relate to. It's difficult to relate to things with people when you're talking about certain topics because you don't know for sure that what you're describing with your feeble little words is what the idea of what they've got in their heads, especially if it's something that's conceptual. Like you can both describe a lampshade to each other and go, oh yeah, I've got that lampshade. What, the one with the yellow frills on the outside? And you go, yeah. And you can sort of like come to a fairly solid agreement that you're talking about the same thing. But if you're talking about an experience to someone, for example, there's a bloke at work who's recently been experimenting with magic mushrooms. And I did a fair bit of that back in my day, 10, 15 years ago. But so when he was describing his experience, I was trying to sort of like pluck out little sentences that he was saying that was sort of relevant and sort of resonated with things that I can remember from my experience when I was doing that sort of thing. But because it's such an ambiguous type of experience, it's very difficult to articulate it into and explain what you've experienced to someone else who's also experienced that thing. I think it's easy for things like an experience. You could experience a skydive to someone quite well. They go, "Have you ever fallen off a chair?" You go, "Yeah." It's like that at times 1,000. That feeling of like when you wake up in the bed and you feel like you're falling. It's that feeling. I mean, I've never gone skydiving, but I can imagine it's a lot like that. But then again, as human species, we do sort of just get used to stuff. Like when you're in that moment for a while. So I reckon when you're skydiving and you jump out of the plane, I reckon you do get that initial like butterfly feeling of oh shit. But I reckon then you quickly get used to it. I reckon that doesn't last the whole time. That sicky little like feeling. I reckon when you bungee jump, I reckon bungee jumping's more scary than skydiving because you look out of this. I imagine you look out of a plane. Like I've looked out of planes before. Like most people knows what the view looks like from a plane. You can't really conceive the distance. I mean, you can see the earth down below you, but you can't really go. That looks like about 2,000 meters. That's a scary distance. You know what I mean? I mean, just from the top of my house looks like a scary difference. I wouldn't jump off the top of my house. I'd be shitting myself if someone said you have to jump off the top of your house. So if you say to someone, right, you got to jump out of this plane, it sort of becomes less scary because, for a start, you're not going to hit the floor for about 10 minutes anyway. So you've got time to make a plan. You've got a parachute strapped to the back of you and you can't really conceptualize that distance. All you know is you're jumping into this sort of windy, sort of like a void. And I reckon you do get that sinking feeling when the gravity kicks in and you're dropping. But once you get used to it, it must be a quite strange experience of falling, just free fall. A little bit like my mind's free falling right now. But I reckon the bungee jump would be a lot scarier because not only have you got the physical effect of falling, but in the back of your mind, you're also thinking, is this actually safe? Because I've seen a few videos where it's failed and the person just hits the dirt. And or I think there was one video where they bungee jumped over this alligator-filled river. And then when they got to the bottom of it, an alligator bit their head off. But the problem is with these videos is I don't know what to trust anymore because you watch them and then the AI ones, the first ones, I was pretty good at identifying them. I was like, that's AI, that's easy to tell. You know what I mean? When they were getting like Trump and Putin to kiss and things like that. And you could tell they were slightly glitchy. They weren't quite right. But some of them now, I'm like, it takes me a couple of minutes to realise it's AI. Usually what gives it away is the absurd thing that's happening. But if they did like really subtle stuff with using AI videos, you wouldn't be suspicious. And if your suspicion is removed, then it's more likely to get it past you. And you're more likely to sort of fall victim to these fake videos. But it's a bit of a scary future, isn't it? Because you don't know what's actually going to happen in the future. How good is AI going to be? I think crime is going to change. I think the type of fraud that's going to happen now, I don't think the world's ready for it because, you know what I mean? Like surely as soon as like criminals get their hands on AI, and I'm sure it's already happening, like it's going to cause a little bit of a war, isn't it, between like cyber criminals. That I think they're going to be the next breed of successful criminals. It's all going to be cyber criminals. You've got AI that at some point they're going to just find it a piece of piss to start hacking into all sorts of shit. Maybe that's how society falls. AI falling into the wrong people's hands. There's a lot of people like who are anarchist and they want to watch the world burn. And I sort of understand it in a way because It is a little bit like the way I've described it to people in the past, anarchy, where I can sort of get behind it is if you've got a dodgy table, like we got this dodgy table at work, right? And they keep fucking putting more screws into it. The thing has got more screws in it than my toolbox. It basically is just made of screws now with a little bit of wood. And I'm like, why don't we just smash it to bits? Just smash it to bits, and then they'll get us a nice new table. And I think that's how anarchism. I think that's how anarchy works. They want to smash up society, get it, and just start fresh. Which I don't really understand because it'll end up how it is now anyway. But that's why I don't understand it when people get annoyed at me, because sometimes I have this view. It's just like, well, what's the point in trying to save the world now? I think it's too far gone. I think you just need to enjoy your life. Get a bottle of fucking Evian water if you want. That's in a plastic bottle. You're not going to be able to save the world. I don't know. It's a bit of a pessimistic way of looking at it, but at the end of the day, we're going only one direction, aren't we? And people often forget as well. They go, "Oh, what about nature? We are nature. We are nature." So don't forget that. We're just an obscure branch of nature. And also don't forget, we're not going to destroy the world. There's been so many apocalyptic type events and so many different species that have come and gone throughout the history of this planet. We're just another one. We're not going to last forever. We'll do something. We'll wipe ourselves out. There'll be some sort of natural disaster, or we'll cause climate change or whatever, and we'll just die out ourselves, and we'll like sort of kill ourselves off. I don't think there's any point in trying to stop it. So, you know what I mean? So anarchism, I'd say it's all right, but there's no need to sort of accelerate it. I think anarchy is just trying to accelerate what's happening anyway. So don't dedicate your life to anarchy when we're just going to sort of wipe ourselves out anyway. And don't get annoyed for people for buying a bottle of plastic Evian water. They're doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. You know what I mean? And what's the point? And in fact, if you're one of the people who are trying to, in brackets, save the planet, in fact, you're actually going against nature, because it's nature maybe trying to wipe us out. Maybe we're evolving to sort of kill ourselves out to let the next sort of species take over the world. You know what I mean? You didn't think about it like that as well. Maybe nature's trying to get us to do these things in order for us to sort of like wipe ourselves out to make way for the next generation of fucking whatever species comes along. So get a bottle of Evian water from the shop, chuck it in the fucking ocean. No, that's a bit tight. You know what I mean? Don't be cruel to the animals. The animals didn't bring any of this on themselves. You know what I mean? We're intelligent enough. We're intelligent enough to understand what it's like to be in pain. And we can empathize with other beings that are in pain. And we shouldn't cause or inflict pain on anything unless it's a fly. Flies, they can take all the pain of the world. They can bear the weight of pain on their shoulders from the entire fucking universe because they annoy me. I mean, and they really annoy me. Like, if I'm going for a nap and a fly lands on my lip, it's another sort of rage. And it just bugs me. Excuse the pun. And some people say, flies needed. Yeah, they are needed. They probably are needed, but they're not needed in my living room. Nature's not going to benefit from a fly buzzing around my living room. And I know you should be nice to insects. I do feel bad when a slight bit of me feels bad when I kill a fly. Only a small part though. Most of myself is like satisfied that I've got rid of that problem. But I've got a mate who's put it quite nicely. I was like, do you feel bad for killing insects? Because obviously we want to live and let live. And he's like, I don't kill insects. I don't kill spiders unnecessarily. I'll only kill an insect if it annoys me or if it might cause harm to myself. So I'm protecting myself. In those two instances, I think it's okay to kill an insect. And I said, yeah, I agree. And I've taken that on with me through the rest of my life. So I think it's okay to kill an insect if it's a bugging you or if it's going to cause harm to you. Oh, I forgot to mention actually, I've seen one of those false widow spiders in the office earlier. I better after this podcast, I better let someone know, because apparently there's quite a few of them in the UK at the minute, and they can give you a nasty bite. Also, if you're really young or really old, and you get bitten by one of these false widows that are knocking about the UK at the minute, that can be potentially fatal. I mean, don't take my word on it. I've just seen a lot of them about it in the news. They're quite easy to spot. They've got quite a big abdomen, thick legs that are arched over, and they've got a shiny black sort of look to them with like white markings on their abdomen, a little bit like a skull. So yeah, that's I'm getting a bit of a hoarse voice now. And anyway, that pretty much ends my free flow. I quite enjoyed that. I don't know how it started. I don't know what was in the middle, but I know it ended on needing to let people at work know there's a potentially irritating arachnid in the office that should be either taken outside into the woodland or killed. And I think in this instance, it's okay to kill it because I think that can actually bite you and cause pain. Anyway, that summarizes today's episode 10. And I'm going to finish up with the... and it also finishes my little free flow conceptual sort of experimental topic, my feature. So I'm going to do one of them again. I quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed the challenge of having to keep it going. But anyway, let's wrap things up with a lovely little song about Ballface. And I'll see you all next week for another invigorating episode of Kill a Bit of Time. Enjoy.
But please don't stare when he looks at you blankly, like nobody's there. Nobody loved him and nobody cared, so be nice to Ballface, he's a little bit scared. Cause he knows, we know, that there's a great big fat ball hanging in the middle of his face. So try to pretend that it isn't there, and be nice to Ballface, he's a little bit scared. So the ball was removed, but that didn't change the way that he acted, a little bit strange. Even without that ball on his face, nobody forgets the original Craig. Cause we know that he knows that there's a great big fat ball hanging in the middle of his face. So try to pretend that it wasn't there, be nice to Ballface, he's a little bit scared. So Craig found a girlfriend who didn't want sex, so he gave her a broken bottle instead. Now she's picking out pieces of broken glass, while Craig is in prison getting fucked in the ass. Cause they know that he knows that the crime he committed will not be permitted in jail. So try to pretend that he isn't there, be nice to Ballface, he's a little bit scared. So he lives on a boat now, hiding away, and him and his ball went their separate ways. Nobody remembers what was on his face back in the day before vagina fillet. But we know that he knows that there's something missing from his facial composition today. Try to remember what once was there, and be nice to Ballface, he's a little bit scared.
Got a bit of time, didn't it? See you later.